In today's Money Matters, do you want the skinny on credit cards? The man who literally wrote the book is here talking about how to master some of the things that you need to master when it comes to credit cards. His name is Jim Randel. Jim, good to see you. I love it. It's a great, fun title, and there's all kinds of stick figures in there.
Right.
And that makes it kind of fun to read.
Right.
Good to see you. Thanks for coming in.
I'm glad to be here.
We were talking about kind of the four main tips when it comes to credit cards, what people want to know. The first one is, what's the best way to master cards?
Well, that's the right question, because I think credit cards are a big convenience, but you can't get into a situation where they're sort of in control instead of you in control. First thing is, when you pull it out of your pocket, think to yourself, I'm borrowing money. In fact, when my children became young adults, got their own cards, I said, hey, wrap a rubber band around the card, and then in the few seconds that it takes to get the rubber band off, remember, you're borrowing money. I don't think any of them did it, but the point is just to remember you're borrowing money. And then put some systems in place. You don't want to be late. If you're late, bad things happen. There's late fees, there's spike in interest rates. You don't want to be over your credit limit. So put some systems in place so that you know when your bill is due, you know when you're getting near your credit line. Learn the rules of the game.
Is it better to just try to use cash maybe a little bit more often than we all do?
No, I'm not one of these no-debt guys. Okay. I think credit cards are a big convenience, and trying to use cash all the time is just not always available.
More difficult.
Yeah, so I say, use your credit card, but use them responsibly.
Try to pay it off in full at the end of each month?
If you can, and if you have to make a minimum, what the bill often calls a minimum required payment, I've been recommending to people, if you just pay a little more than the minimum required payment, that can cut down the period of time you're in debt quite a bit.
So pay as much as you can if you can't pay the full, and just try to pay more than the minimum. How do you know when you have too many credit cards? What's a good number to have?
Well, my own opinion, 2 or 3. And, when you can't keep track of all the bills, the whole process becomes a little unwieldy. Right. I think then you're...
What about younger people and credit cards? When should they be getting a credit card?
It's actually quite controversial now. There's a new credit card law. It was signed by President Obama in May of last year. And it said that anyone under the age of 21 could not get their own credit card unless they could establish that they had their own independent source of income or they had a parent co-sign. I've been speaking out against that. I think that people under the age of 21 can go into the military. Sure. They ought to be able to have a credit card.
So maybe a little lower, maybe 18 or 16.
I think 18 would be appropriate.
Okay. Last question. Some new laws that are in effect. You just talked about one. What other laws are in effect that help us?
Well, this new law, which is called the Credit Card Accountability, Responsibility, and Disclosure Act, or the Credit Card Act of 2009, has a lot of good protections for credit card holders. First time in 50 years. Talks about no rate increases in the first year that you get a credit card unless you have a variable rate, can go up and down. Okay. Talks about you got to get 45 days notice before they can increase your rate. They got to evaluate increases every 6 months. Whole slew of protections.
The book is called The Skinny on Credit Cards. Jim, thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Appreciate it. We're going to take a quick break. We've got a lot more coming up in the next hour. Stay with us.